The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the City of Neenah's Common Council meeting for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. The first item on the agenda is the roll call. Please indicate your presence on your roll call device, and the clerk will call the roll.
Alderperson Boyette.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Hillstrom.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Steiner.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
Skirms.
Here.
Weber is excused. And Borchard.
Here.
Thank you. Alderman Hillstrom will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members, if you would push the button on the right side of your screen, we'll turn your screen on. It's in the lower right-hand corner. Try the upper right-hand corner.
Being recorded on TV.
Sort of on the back.
It's on the back.
Upper one, lower right top button.
Move up from the round.
The big round one?
Keep going up.
Go up on the top. It's the very first.
Keep
Yep.
going.
Keep going.
All kinds of them to push.
Like the fifth button up. Down, carry.
There we go.
Like it's braille.
The fifth one above the bottom one. That bottom one.
I'm good at pushing buttons.
Stands out.
The next item on the agenda is introduction and confirmation of mayor's appointments. There is an appointment of Holly Follier to the Sustainable Neenah Committee for a 3-year term ending December 2026. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of approval of that appointment? Any objection? Seeing none, Holly Follier is appointed to the Sustainable Neenah Committee, and she will be sworn in at a later date. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the council proceedings from February 7th. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of approval of those council minutes and proceedings from February 7th? Seeing none, those council minutes and proceedings are approved. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is the opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on a topic that they would like to present to the council. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand and we will call on you to come to the microphone, and at that time you should give your name and residential address, and you're allowed 5 minutes to speak on any topic. Is there anyone here who would like to speak during the public forum?
Good evening, Mayor Lang, city alder persons, and city fellow leaders here. My name is Jeff Linsky. I live at 1563 Kingswood Drive here in Neenah, and I'm currently running for the alderman for the 3rd District. So hopefully, big shoes to fill here with Todd retiring. So, like I said, I not originally born and raised here in Neenah. I born and raised in Milwaukee. I did 24 years in the military. And then when I retired, my wife said she wanted to move back home. So we now call Neenah home. We've been here for the past 11 years. And I was interested in city council a couple years ago when there was an opening. Did not, partake at that time. And I seen the other opening coming up on this round here, so I figure I'm gonna jump right in and see what I can do to help make the city. I wouldn't say better, because I think you guys are doing a great job already with what we do here, but it just kind of continue going forward with the great city we have here. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Go ahead.
I will keep this brief. I am Kristen Sandvik. I reside at 312 Caroline Street, and I am running for alderperson in District 1. And that is basically all I have to say. I would appreciate anybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
A little taller. Can you hear me? They don't make anything for people 6'3", so, or 6'2", or wherever I'm at. So my name is Adam Hendricks. I live at 641 Belmont Court, and I am not running for an alderman right now, all right? So I just want to make that on the table. So some of you guys have gotten to know me over the past month or so. I know we have some construction going on in Neenah here. Redoing my street, right? So I came to the council with a lot of concerns. I can tell you I came here not thinking that I was gonna get anywhere, no results, nothing, my voice wasn't gonna be heard. So I had a great conversation with Director Kaiser earlier today, and there's a couple things I wanna talk about. First of all, I don't think that the public recognition is done enough for you guys, right? So I was gonna originally come to the meeting tonight. I still had some concerns. I had a really good conversation with Director Kaiser earlier today. And I had a whole slew of lists of things that, I was upset with this project that was going on my street. Came to a common council meeting and then went to the public works meeting. Public works meeting, specifically the alderman, if I remember correctly, Bokert? Brian, yeah. Hey, Brian,
That
hey,
one.
buddy. Yeah, there we go. Brian, Todd, and Carrie. I know it's Carrie's the chair of the meeting. You guys really advocated, and you guys spoke out when it was a discussion item on the agenda there for you guys to approve and ask some questions and really advocated for my street, right? I mean, you guys aren't my district, or I'm not in your district, or however you want to say it. I always say, you guys are here to represent the people, right? The citizens, that's the duty. And I really think that you, as an alderman, outside of your own district, you really advocated for me. So I want to say personally, thank you. I don't think it's something that you guys probably hear enough public praise, right? Probably hear people coming in here most often, complaining, not being involved, just want answers, not to be a part of solution, and none of that thought that happens. So I want to say thank you from specifically in that council or the committee meeting, alderman advocating, right? I didn't think that was going to happen, and you guys really did. You stuck up for the citizens. You guys advocated for the street. You asked some questions. You didn't pass a resolution in haste, which I know that you guys are voting on tonight in actual council. So thank you for asking those questions and addressing my concerns. So specifically, I would like to address Director Kaiser and the work that he's done putting into all my concerns. As far as I know, it's not an elected position. You had no right, or you had no duty to advocate for me, right? Whatever happens isn't gonna affect whether you get reelected or not if you make me happy, right? You went out of your way to advocate for me and my neighbors and our concerns. So far as sending out engineers to our street, talking with some of my neighbors, their concerns, answering my phone calls, answering my neighbors' emails, things like that. So I can't praise the alderman from the meeting or the Public Works Committee enough, and even in this council here. And specifically, I can't praise Director Kaiser enough with the work that he's done advocating for me when he had no duty to do it. Could have passed this, could have just turned a blind ear to me, said, yep, whatnot, but he really put in the work and went to reassure us and communicate that pretty effectively. So just from a citizen standpoint, I think you guys are doing a great job. And that's kind of all I have for you guys. I don't think that you guys hear it enough of good job, and you really reinvigorated my faith in the city government actually listening. So thank you. That's all I got. Once
Thank
again,
you.
I'm not running for an alderman position. That is off the table. Kids at home still.
Would anyone else like to speak during the public forum?
Good evening, excuse me, good evening, everyone. Also not running for an alderman position. Ryan Batley, General Manager at Bridgewood, here representing the Best Western Premier Bridgewood Resort Hotel and Conference Center. We are at 1000 Cameron Way in Neenah, and here to answer any questions as we are looking for TIF support for District Number 12 with the development and construction of our 40-room guest room addition. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum? Seeing no one, I will close the very positive and nice public forum.
Could we keep that open at least a little longer?
Chief, you have anything you want to share?
So thank you to all who spoke. Next item, Mayor Council consideration of public forum issues. Is there anyone who would like to comment? Seeing none, there's no consent agenda. Moving on then to reports of standing committees. Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of February 13th. Chairman Lendrum.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, I will be reporting out from the regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of February 13th, 2024. Minutes can be found on the city website. If you cannot find them, please call me and I'll walk you through that. Item number 1. Committee recommends council approve final resolution 2024-01, installation of sanitary sewer laterals and water services for properties serviced on the following streets: Bayview Road, Belmont Avenue, Belmont Court, Cedar Street, East Doty Avenue, North Street, Quarry Lane, Stephen Street, and South Park Avenue, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 2, committee recommends council approve the purchase of 28X Meridian Archer 1200 barriers. Those are the barriers that we put up in the streets that are mobile, that we can actually do by hand, to block any kind of wayward traffic, to protect pedestrians during concerts and parades. But they are called 1200 barriers, 2 Meridian drop-down trailers that you can load them onto, and miscellaneous accessories like the dolly at the cost of $245,860.09 from the 2024 Capital Improvement Plan funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Skirms. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think it's important for the community to know and understand that the dollars that we're utilizing to purchase these are ARPA dollars, which are dollars that came to the city, federal money, as a result of the pandemic. And the city has chosen to, and we got a lot of money, and we chose to fund these because it truly, I mean, it's not caused by the pandemic, but it's something that's obviously needed in these times. And the council saw. I want to give kudos to the police department for the hard work and the extensive research they did and the materials they provided us to give us an easy justification for the purchase. So I'm all fully supportive of it.
Alderman Skirms.
Thank you, Mayor. I too support this, and I'd encourage people to look up, I'm sure you can find this somewhere on their website, a demonstration of how these work, because if you walk by and say, well, that just looks like a little kind of pop-up easel thing, what's that going to do? But the live demonstration is pretty impressive, how they work, so I encourage you to check that out. Thank you.
Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that when we have events, usually in our downtown area, you've probably seen the big trucks, the big recycling trucks, trash trucks, and they're parked to block traffic. And apparently this is a better choice. These barriers are a better choice. We don't have to worry then about overtime. We need specific drivers to drive those trucks during that time period. And our insurance, there was some question on whether if something were to happen and those trucks would be damaged, whether that would be covered by insurance because they weren't being used in the manner that they are intended. They were just being used as blockades. So this is a far better choice. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 3, committee recommends council approve the creation of the Houses into Homes program as recommended by the Department of Community Development and funded with proceeds from the Affordable Housing Tax Incremental District 1-year extension. That's the 1 year that we get after the TIF closes, the 1 year of increment that we get. And I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. At this point, I would like to have, actually, I'll call on Alderman Steiner first.
Thank you, Mayor. So reading through the Houses into Homes program, it looks like it's very focused on basically the improvements, right? Getting certain aesthetic features up to better heightened quality, making homes basically more livable fundamentally. I was wondering, are there elements of the program in terms of the funds that we're utilizing for the 1-year extension on the TIF that can be used for the expansion of housing as well, and not just the improvement of current stock?
I think the answer to that is yes. So we have allocated, the fund contains just over $800,000. We have allocated for this year $200,000 to be utilized in this program. And as Samantha will present in just a minute, we view this first year as being a pilot to get an idea of how the program will work, what kind of interest we'll have. But that we have that $600,000. We haven't determined or found a specific program or project that we could utilize those funds for, but certainly they are eligible for a project or projects that could expand the housing. So the answer, back to your answer question, yes, absolutely.
So we are looking at potential. We haven't come across an option yet.
Our focus has been on this up to this point, and so your answer is correct. We just haven't taken the time to really look at other options that could do more to add affordable housing units. Certainly, there's a lot of effort being done across the country in that regard. We are coincidentally planning to do a housing study this year that could shed some light on some opportunities where these funds could help serve as a catalyst to add to our housing supply, particularly the affordable housing supply.
Okay, thank you.
At this point, I would like to call forward Community Development Specialist Samantha Jefferson to give a presentation for us on this project, Houses into Homes.
me today. I know that you all have my memo and the proposed handbook, and as we've been talking, some of the things we're going to go over, we have just been talking about, but I'll briefly go over our program and then, of course, take any questions. So to go back to the beginning, as Alderperson Lundrum mentioned, so we have this fund, this about $850,000, because the city opted to take what the state allows, which is holding open TIF districts that are closing for an additional year, and you can use that increment that you've captured for a couple different things. The state is a little bit vague on what they require that you do with it, but they do say that 75% of it must be used for affordable housing. The other 25% you can use for housing stock improvements. And so the first thing when we were trying to plan this program is we saw a gap in our community. And the gap is a lot of people own homes, but a lot of people maybe can't afford to upgrade or upkeep these homes. As we all know, construction is very expensive. I was talking with some of our inspectors upstairs. Kitchen remodels, averages are $35,000, bathrooms $15,000, driveways can be up to 10. So this is something that a lot of people maybe just don't have in our community. We do have our very successful rehab grant that we run through our department. This differs from that in two major ways. First of all, this isn't an income-based program. So a lot of times people will try to apply for rehab and they will not be eligible because of income restrictions. Number two, there are different projects that can be eligible in each of the different programs. So we looked around to our neighbors. There are a lot of municipalities in the state that are doing things like this. Two of our neighbors have some pretty successful programs. One of them is Menasha. We've talked to them extensively because we wanted to get their ideas, make sure we weren't making the same mistakes they made the first couple years. And so we have kind of built ours similarly to theirs. So our program objectives, we wanted to keep them very simple but measurable. And a lot of it, as you can see, is about maintaining our housing stock. We have a lot of aging housing stock in our community. We want to make sure that people still want to live in our affordable housing neighborhoods. We want to make sure that if someone puts investment in, there's others that will also put investment in. And we also want to decrease the issues of nonconformity. So examples, driveways. A lot of people in the city have gravel driveways. Maybe they don't want to have a gravel driveway, but driveways are expensive. So if we can help put that investment into the community and decrease those situations, we think that would be a good thing. So again, we wanted to keep this very simple for residents and for staff to manage this program, so we built this around 2 points of eligibility. The first one is the assessed value of the property. So your property would have to be $209,000 or lower if it's a 1 unit, and $260,000 or lower for a 2 unit. And this is based on 95% of the median purchase price based on data from the Federal Housing Administration. Also, the second thing is the property should be located inside the property or the program boundary map, which we see here. I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. So to get right into our program, this is a 2-part program, but this one thing is the same for both. This is a matching program, so this is a 1-to-1 match. So say someone comes to us and wants to do an $8,000 kitchen remodel. We would expect them to put in $4,000. The city would match the $4,000. The only difference to that is we're expecting non-owner occupied properties that they would put in 75% of the cost. The city would go up to 25%. So the first part of our program is the grant program. This is called Curb Appeal. The projects in this program are more what you would think of the aesthetics of the home. So small paint, front porches, landscaping, etc. The other part is our Refresh and Renew program. That's the loan portion of this. Those are bigger, more extensive, comprehensive projects. So kitchen remodels, bath remodels, conversions, things of that nature. So quickly to go through Curb Appeal, as I said, this is a 1-to-1 match. We will put in up to $5,000, and we also have a minimum. We would like people to have up to, or minimum $1,000 project if they're applying. We do have one thing in this program that's different from the rest. We are capping our landscaping match at $250, and we do have a max over a 5-year period, and for this one it's $5,000. And as I said before, these are the types of projects that would be eligible in this program. So a lot of outside exterior type projects. Refresh and renew. This is our loan program. This is an interest-free deferred mortgage loan. So the money would be recouped at the time of if the house were to sell. And again, 25% to non-owner occupied properties. We raised this a little bit because these are larger, more comprehensive projects. The max the city will put in is $15,000, minimum $3,000 for the project. That would be the project cost total. We did put a caveat into this one as well. We are capping city match for driveways at $2,500. $15,000 total match for 5 years. We raised that again, bigger projects. And the Loan Assistance Board will be the final determiner for loans in this program. And again, these are those eligible projects. As you can see, larger, more costly projects, garage constructions, conversions, remodels. So to go back to location eligibility, there's 2 reasons why we chose this area to start. And as Director Hayes mentioned, we're kind of using this as a pilot because we want this program to be very successful. And so we want a quantity, but we also need this to have quality. And so when we were looking at the city, the parcels that would be eligible for this was in the thousands, right? So we wanted to narrow it down to see what was going to happen in the first year or so and make sure we were able to handle as staff what was going to come in. And then 2, Rock the Block is planned for this area this year. In talking with Habitat, there were things, because Rock the Block has a maxes also. So there were things like if a house needed a roof, they couldn't do it through Rock the Block. Potentially, if we combine our investments, things like that could get done. And then we just have a few data points that we thought were interesting. In this area, there's 475 eligible 1 and 2 unit properties. As I talked about, our housing stock is aging. You can see here for the 1 unit, the average is 110 years old in this area and 124 years old for a 2 unit. And the average value, the 2 units are a little lower. And for square footage, the average is 1,300 for a 1 unit and about 1,800 for a 2 unit in this area. So that's all I have. We're really excited to get started and of course, take any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Skirms.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned some data points, and I'm curious what you perceive as successful. If we do X or Y or Z, what are those quantifiable items?
That's a great question. We have talked about how we're going to do that. There are some ideas that we have. First, it could be assessed value of the unit itself or an area. We also, our Deputy Director Schmidt and our intern had walked some of the neighborhoods in Neenah. I believe that was last year. And there's a certain criteria that you put on certain properties or certain neighborhoods. And so you could potentially do that from an aesthetic point of view or, people wanting to come to the city. So we're still kind of fleshing out those, how is this going to be measurable? But that is something that obviously we want to show that success is being had here, so.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Borchert.
Smith, you mentioned it during committee about it, but can you share with how a resident would apply or how they're going to get information about these?
Absolutely. So we will be putting it on social media. That's our plan. Also, we've talked about Neenah News, the Neenah newsletter that the city sends out. So there will be a web page that we're actually working on as we speak. And so the residents will be able to go to the web page. They'll first fill out like a qualifier document, very simple, ask just a few questions. That way we can tell, okay, right away this is eligible or this is not eligible. I'll then have them come in, talk to us about their project, and then we would kind of funnel them into the grant or the loan program. If it was the loan program, they would then have to go through the Loan Assistance Board for final approval. But the plan is to keep it very simple. We'll get the information out there. We're assuming that Rock the Block, they'll have information with them. Another thing is our inspectors. So if somebody, has a code issue and they can't afford to to make it better, our inspectors will have information on this program in the eligible area.
Thank you.
Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. It appears that the houses that are eligible are only on the island. Is that correct?
That is correct for the time being. Yes.
So for the time being, how long will that last?
I think we haven't really anticipated a time period. I think we in our heads we're thinking about a year because we do want the investment to get to other parts of the city. It was just when we were seeing the numbers of parcels that were eligible, it was a little overwhelming. So if we can get kind of an idea from there, I think we'd feel more comfortable opening it up.
I know you talked about being overwhelming, but I represent the 2nd District, and it doesn't, anyhow, the homes in our area are not would not qualify. And I also look at Commercial Street and South Commercial Street, where that assistance could be used as well. So one other question I have is, what would prevent, and maybe you've covered this and I just didn't catch it, somebody who would buy a house and flip a house? Is that something that, do they have to maintain the house for a certain length of time or before they get reimbursed, or?
Sure. To speak to the first thing you were saying too, we did cap the budget for the first year. That way the whole entire $850,000 wouldn't be spent before we got to other parts of the city,
right.
If that helps at all. And then to answer your question about the investment properties, yes, they would be eligible, but at that lower, we would only give 25% as opposed to 50%.
But if I was someone who did this for kind of a living, I mean, that would be certainly something that I would say, hey, that's a great opportunity for me to save money.
And that's why we put maxes on what they could get per property also.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I think just to clarify that is if it's the bigger loan, the loan part of this program, those dollars would be recaptured with the sale of the property. So there'd be a lien on the property. So if you acquired the property and did a larger project, we would recapture those. But I think philosophically, I don't know that we're overly concerned with that, because if there's an improvement in the housing stock, there's an improvement in the housing stock. So I'm not overly concerned about that.
All right.
And that's another thing we'll be watching this first year, is to see what's happening and the patterns there.
When you were talking to Menasha, did they let you know how many people participated with us?
They did. So we do have their review that they gave to their council. I don't have exact numbers, but I do know that they said it was mainly owner occupied.
Okay.
And that was I was glad to hear that, so.
I think there's also that factor that Rock the Block is taking place on the island this year, so it leverages that opportunity to have a greater impact by focusing on the island this year along with them. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device for approval of the creation of the Houses into Homes program. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 4. Committee recommends council approve Westwood Professional Services to perform a redesign of the storm sewer for the South Commercial Street reconstruction project for an amount not to exceed $10,560, which shall be funded with the South Commercial Street design dollars, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Borchert. Sorry, Council President Borchert. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please vote. Oh, vote on your voting device. I'm sorry. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 5, committee recommends council approve contract amendment 1 for design and construction administration services on the Neenah Creek Bridge with Grafe USA Incorporated in the amount of $31,600. I would so move. This is the old school Neenah would call it the Neenah Slough, but this is the bridge that's closer to the hotel, to the Bridgewood Hotel. You can see it from the highway being constructed, so I just wanted everyone to know which bridge that was.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Council President Borchert. Is there any discussion on this item? Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, please vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And lastly, item number 6, committee recommends council approve the contract with Westwood Professional Services for design services on the Douglas Pond at a cost of $45,300, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Stevenson.
Thank you. I know. I think there it is. So it's just a thank you to Jerry for recognizing the short sight of not bringing the professional contract to the council, and a reminder to all council members that staff needs council approval to contract with subcontractors. But I'm glad Jerry did it in a straightforward and productive way, and I expect great things out of Douglas Pond.
Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is the same project that I'm against, and for many reasons, but just pretty much with what I've received back from my constituents, and so I will be voting against this.
Any additional discussion or questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-1.
And that's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda is the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of February 12th. Chairman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of February 12th, 2024. The minutes can be found on the city's website. Item number 1, the committee recommends council approve Tax Incremental District 12 Development Agreement with Bridgewood Holdings of Neenah, LLC, to assist with the construction of 40 new guest rooms and ancillary improvements to the Bridgewood Resort Hotel and Conference Center at 1000 Cameron Way, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Steiner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Batley, for showing up here. I'm wondering, I mentioned this in the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. One of the components of the TIF is the but-for justification, which basically says the project would not move forward but for funding from the city or assistance from the city. A lot, I've been on the council for 2 years, so not very long, but a lot of the projects that I've seen regarding TIF have been more of, kind of clear developments that are newer or something that would clearly not move forward without some sort of city support. And I was wondering if maybe you could just talk a little bit from a financial standpoint, how this expansion fits into that in terms of that you would not move forward without the financial support of the city through the TIF.
Yeah, great question. I think was brought up earlier, construction costs are higher than ever and continue to go up. For us, it's those, unexpected and obsolescence costs that would really be a hinder to us. The FEMA, the wetland, the floodplain, the engineering cost. The big one is where that area was in the floodplain, and the substantial amount just to get us out of the floodplain to be able to make this construction happen. Those are some of the costs that would be prohibitive for us to move forward with the project if we didn't get the assistance.
Okay, so the floodplain is an excessive amount above and beyond what would normally be part of an expansion project like this?
Correct.
Okay. Any just perspective on magnitude about how much more, not exact numbers, but in terms of quantity, times more than it would normally be?
I guess I don't know how to put that in percentage numbers. I know the construction costs alone are substantial, which those alone would probably prohibit us from moving forward.
Wow.
Anything more?
Nope, thank you.
Alderman Skirms.
Thank you, Mayor. When this first came up to finance, typically we think of TIF as, you mentioned, it's brownfield, or it's, so we're going to bring in a factory that's going to employ so many people. And there is some employment gain on this, although not much. But after thinking about it, I think the true economic impact of this is found in 40 additional rooms means some percentage of those rooms will be filled every night. If you figure out, say, half of them are filled, that's roughly 7,000 room nights a year. And the statistic I found, which is apparently a trade number, it may be different for us, and I've reached out to the Visitors Convention Bureau to find if they've got a better number, but the number I found was for every $100 spent on lodging, another 222 is spent at the destination. So 7,000 room nights at 100 and whatever, it comes up to over $2 million a year people are going to be spending in our community. So what's the life of the 40 additional rooms? 20 years? It seems like a reasonable and worthwhile investment to me, so I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device to approve Tax Incremental District Number 12 Development Agreement with Bridgewood Holdings of Neenah. That motion passes 7-0 and 1 abstention from Alderman Stevenson. Alderman Erickson.
Thank you. Item number 2, the committee recommends council approve an interest rate of 5% for 2024 special assessments paid in installments, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Steiner. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device to approve an interest rate of 5% for special assessments. That motion passes 8-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda, the regular plan commission of February 13th. Representative Steiner, I don't believe there is any report.
If I could just mention one item.
Sure, go ahead.
Just wanted to mention that through several months, the Plan Commission has been reviewing chapter by chapter the comprehensive plan updates. I just want to send my appreciation to community development, and Brad Schmidt in particular have done a great job in organizing. It's a pretty thick document with a lot of great information, a lot of great ideas in terms of the future of Neenah, and it was a really nice method to go through it. We are on the cusp of completing that. It's going to eventually come to council, I think in maybe a month or so. I encourage you to take a look at it. Anyone in the audience taking a look at it or running for alderman, it's a fantastic document to look through, because it really has a lot of great ideas taken from the community over the last 10 years or so. And it's a great job by community development on that.
Thank you very much for that good comment. Next item on the agenda is the Board of Public Works meeting of February 13th. Vice Chairman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. The minutes from this meeting can be found on the city website. This evening we have 2 informational only items and 1 council action item. The first information item, the board approved pay request number 2, contract 7-23, sanitary and storm sewer, water main and street construction on High Street and River Street to Carl Bowers and Sons Construction Company, Incorporated, in the amount of $98,095.33. Item B, the board approved pay request number 2, contract 2, 23W West Side Booster Station Building Construction to RJM Construction LLC in the amount of $12,622.65. And the council action item for this evening, the board recommends council approve award contract 1-24 sanitary sewer and laterals, storm sewer, water main and services, and street construction on Belmont Avenue, Belmont Court, Cedar Street, and Stevens Street, using the concrete pavement alternative to David Tenner Corporation in the amount of $3,295,454.70, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lundrum. Is there any discussion on that item? Any questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device to approve award contract 124. That motion passes 8-0.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda, reports of neighborhood groups, the Business Improvement District Board. Alderman Skirms.
Thank you, Mayor. The board met yesterday. A few items worth sharing. Warm Your Hearts happened February 10th. It was perfect weather. There were 325 tickets sold. It was a big hit. People wandered around, stuck around for well into the evening, so it was very successful. Future Neenah announced awards for last year. They recognize certain individuals, organizations who are particularly helpful to Future Neenah. Greenworks, Old and New, was recognized as the Downtown Business of the Year. Who else? Champion of the Year was Plexus, and the Civic Partner of the Year was City of Neenah. The beds this year downtown, the tree beds will be decorated again in May. If you'd like to sign up for a tree bed, it's a fun event there. That's an opportunity for you. The next bid board meeting is March 19th, and it will be sort of an open house at Future Neenah where folks can stop in and meet your neighbors. So if you want to say hello to the downtown businesses, feel free to stop by then. News in the downtown urban market, which is right next to the skating rink in 201, should be opening next month. They're this close to getting their construction work done. If you can peek in the window now, and it looks like it's going to happen soon. So that's very exciting. The former Scanlon Studio building, I believe it's Milo by Salon Amici is going to open a... Mellow, thank you. I can't read my own writing. Is opening up a salon studio in there. And the bid board also awarded some help for some blade signs downtown for 3 businesses. That concludes my report. Thanks.
Thank you for your report. I think volunteer of the year was Santiago Sanchez as well, who does a
Correct.
lot of their
Yep.
volunteer photography and did our council photo this year.
Thank you.
Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. John,
Yes.
the flower beds,
Yes.
do you know if the electricity got fixed on those? I know when they did them last, folks were putting lights and decorations and whatnot, and they went to utilize them, and the lights were not working. I actually had called James, and he came down and tried to flip some switches, because apparently one side of Wisconsin isn't on the same circuit as the other side of Wisconsin, and needless to say, a lot of the beds didn't have electricity. So if we're getting ready to do that, just a heads up, maybe we could check, see if that electricity ever got fixed.
I think there's still some issues. It's been winter, and I don't think we've dug up any beds, but folks are aware of it.
Good to know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next item, the library board meeting of February 21st. Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Neenah Library Board of Trustees met this afternoon at 4 o'clock. There is information that they released on the 2023 year in review. There were 210,149 library visits last year. 24,000 211 people attended library programs. There were 603 total checkouts and reference questions answered. The quantity was 52,627. Our library is very, very popular, and it is very, very well used by our community. And that concludes my report. I always mention that it's great for you to check out some books and visit the library. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. And I'm sorry to do this to you with your laryngitis, but Neenah Arts Council meeting
Neenah Arts
is
Council meeting was
next for you.
canceled.
Okay,
And this
good.
is way better than it was last week, so.
Okay. Next item is the Landmarks Commission meeting of February 15th. Alderman Weber is not able to give that report. Next item is petitions. There are no petitions. Any council directives? No council directives. Unfinished business. Alderman Erickson.
I have a question. I don't know if it should be a council directive or unfinished business, but several years ago, we approved the council members would receive an iPad for everybody to use. And I was wondering if at our next meeting, if somebody from the Information Systems Department could come and give us an update on what, with getting, we will be getting new aldermen, what the plan is for technology for the aldermen and alderman training. If they could give us an update on that, because that kind of went along the wayside, and I think it should be revisited.
Thank you. Making a note. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give an update. SB 752, the service animal bill, passed with a 98-0 vote, and it awaits the governor's signature on April 25th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional unfinished business? New business, then. Arrowhead Park Development Status Report.
Nothing new to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional announcements or questions that may come before the council? Seeing none, is there a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to move into closed session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. We'll take a short break.
The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.